and then you die pretending you've just had a spear in your throat. Then suddenly you're like in there with the stunt team shoving fish in people's mouths, and
It's okay to go big and go crazy and have fun with it.
what have they been smoking? Who the fuck is Carl Davis?
Gents, thanks very much for joining us here at the Edinburgh Film Festival. I saw the movie yesterday at a press screening. I also saw The Incomer as well. First question, John. Let's say 5 years ago or so, someone says to you, there's going to be a John Hannah double bill at the Edinburgh Film Festival. In one movie, you play a SEAL Thin Man type person, and in another movie, you're an action hero during a once-in-a-generation solar eclipse. What goes through your mind at that point?
What have they been smoking?
Chee, about the movie and about the first-person format, I wanted to ask, not so much about the technical aspects of, like, you know, the actors wearing a rig and whatnot, but I'm wondering, were you ever tempted to break the rule of not having every shot be a POV, whether it's a person or a camera? Were you ever tempted to step outside of that, or was that like a hard rule for the whole movie?
It was definitely a rule. I think we tried to kind of really stay to that. We did kind of have, like, we had a rule book and a kind of a guide, and so that was kind of really that was kind of key. I think, I guess, to your question, if we ever wanted to step out, if I did, we would just go to a different POV. And I think that's where that would allow us something a little bit different. But no, everything needs to be POV.
John, from an actor's point of view, performance point of view, you spend your whole career, like, from the film and television side of things, not looking at the lens. And then you spend an entire movie where you have to look at the lens. I think I've heard a lot of chat about the challenges with a POV style movie. What were some of the benefits of it? I'm wondering, did it free you up in a way in terms of, like, where the camera is, because you know it's the camera is your fellow actor?
That's a good point. Actually, I've never really thought about it in that perspective. But yeah, it very much, after a while, after a week or two of getting used to the process, getting used to what she was wanting, getting used to what we could bring to it, there was a lot of long takes, very long takes. There was a lot of travelling shots, going through real people, real streets, not necessarily all cut off. And Radha, Tamara are brilliantly kind of creative improvisationally, because we had a script, we a long script, and there were very much bullet points along the way that we knew we had to get to, and part of the plot, etc., etc. But a lot of the other stuff was kind of simply filling in the space. Because of the nature of these long takes, you couldn't just really do the scene. You had to sort of get the scene and get the information across, but there was so much more room that you couldn't just, you know, look at the seagulls or the pigeons. You had to fill it with something, and that kind of allowed an improvisational side, which I've always been comfortable with. You know, some might say I never shut up. Or I always have to have the last word, one of the two. But yeah, I mean, one of the first films I did in America was with Bruce Campbell, Kevin J. O'Connor, a young comedian, Ali Wentworth, and it was directed by Peyton Reed, it was his first film, went on to have a very good career, very funny guy. Those are people that improvise a lot, and it's interesting being kind of working class, and, you know, having gone through drama school and learning RP and all of that kind of thing. Very sadly, last week, a director I worked with early on, Peter Gill from the National Theatre, died, Royal Court, and we did a Shakespeare workshop with Peter about Shakespeare and accents and what it meant, and he was very supportive about working class actors. I think that kind of path has dried up in a lot of ways, but both with my working class roots and with the American tendency to improvise and make stuff up, I kind of felt validated. And of course, in this, not just learning the technical elements that she needed, but just filling that space and keeping going. Never say, oh, sorry, what do I do now? You know, just keep going.
So I'm assuming it was pretty much like a series of long takes throughout the movie. What I wanted to ask as well, Chee, something I really enjoyed was the on-screen annotations, like the text and the kill counts and whatnot. I'm curious, was that always part of the plan? Was that in the script, or was that something that you found in the edit?
That was something that we evolved in the edit. I think partly what we were constantly doing in this kind of process, in terms of the pre-production, the shooting, and the post, was constantly about how can we just engage audiences, how can we have fun with this, how can we make these action sequences feel different, change locations, different characters, different scenarios, and then like at some point it was kind of becoming quite gamery, and we just kind of felt like we'd lean into it. I think that was kind of the idea, was like, let's just kind of have fun, like why not? And so that, and then I think then it was about also things like how to just kind of punctuate the point a little bit more, and again, just not take self too seriously. I think that was kind of something like, just have a fun ride.
Yeah. Now at the channel, we're big fans of physical media, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K discs. If you were ever to sit down and record a commentary track for a physical media release of the movie, what scene would you be most excited to delve into, and why?
Wow. I mean, well, the one that stands out, there's so many. I mean, there's so many, but the kind of baptism of fire for me was the first week. So that was basically the opening of the film, waking up and getting out of the hotel. And that was, the cops in the room, finding Rada, killing the cops all through the hotel, getting through the kitchens and going through all of that stuff. And that was a week. And that was a baptism of fire on that. And it was a learning process like no other, as an actor, as you say, doing the theatre and declaiming and depicting and all of that. And then suddenly you're like in there with the stunt team shoving fish in people's mouths and all kinds of daft fun stuff to do. It was extraordinary. I remember finishing that week and just being at home. It was a 6-day week we were doing, and just being at home on the day off and being completely gubbed, just like, what the have I just been through? It was extraordinary.
I like that, completely gubbed. We'll put a Scots we'll translate that for the international audience. We'll do a Scots dictionary explainer video. Chee, what about yourself?
Yeah, you could annotate that on screen there.
Chee, you're in the recording booth. You're doing a director's commentary track. What's the scene that you're most excited to get into and explain?
I mean, I think I would probably say similar to John. I think because it, very much so, I think it's you're finding your footing. You're working with the different characters. The crew are really finding their feet as well. So I would probably say that scene, and without giving the spoilers away, but the plane scene as well. I think those were kind of two, because I think at that point everyone was a lot more seasoned. They'd kind of gone through the boot camp. We kind of was like call it POV boot camp. They'd kind of gone through, and they knew that. So I think that kind of that end sequence. It's interesting because you kind of, in the first kind of hotel sequence, you're really trying to like work on the kind of the practicalities of how to make the POV work. Then when you're in this plane sequence outside, it's like you've got that now nailed, but it's pouring down rain, So it's like you're trying to, battle the different elements. So it's just a very different type of like, so you're always battling something. And like, how do you kind of achieve that? But yeah, I think those kind of two sequences kind of, for me, like chapter it kind of really well. And I think the kind of the revelation, you're spending a lot of time, and this is not a negative thing, really kind of explaining, and reassuring people it's okay to go big and go crazy and have fun with it. And so as the shoot progresses, I noticed that more and more, and that was great. It was kind of really good to kind of see.
John, you mentioned out there about you growing up in working class and the pathway of an actor. Then, you grew up in East Kilbride, I think, didn't you? I'm an East Kilbride lad myself as well. Growing up in East Kilbride, the idea of being an actor, being in movies like Sliding Doors, The Mummy, through to movies like The Incomer and Bad Day at the Office. What was that path like for you? And do you think it's changed for the better or for worse?
It's definitely changed for the worse. I think in terms of what gets commissioned now, particularly in TV, the lack of funding in the theatre, the crowd pleasers that get done definitely don't lend themselves to being, working class stories. And same for TV, same for. I think I found myself, I don't know, not by design, but I've found myself going. I have done a lot of TV, but also doing a lot more independence in the last 10 years or so, which has been great because you take seems to me, she'll maybe say different, but it takes away a layer of executive management, which I think is good, in terms of the creative juices there. I want to just say a funny thing about East Kilbride. I've said my whole life. We used to play a game in the summer, all the kids in the street, we used to play a game called Best Man's Fall. You ever heard of it? Yep. I've asked actors around the world if they've ever heard of this, and they've never, ever heard of it.
Wait, just so my version is the same as yours. Tell me, you bet.
Right, so you get your crowd of guys, somebody's in, right? And then everybody else is at the far end of the grass, and they say, right, okay, I want a spear in the throat. So they run up towards it, and you throw a spear, and they go, and then you die, pretending you've just had a spear in your throat. You die. Somebody else says, right, I want a machine gun. You die like you've seen in the movies. And at the end of everybody having gone, the person who was in says, right, that was the best. Yeah. And then they're in, and then you do it all again.
So we call it Dead Man's Fall, but the exact same game, yeah. And I play that with, probably not PC to say, I play that with my kids at the swimming.
Right, because you can then dive into the pool. Yeah, no, absolutely. We used to do that as well, yeah, at the Dolan Baths.
Maybe that's just like an 80s thing, maybe.
I don't know, but nobody else I've ever spoken to has played that game. I wonder if it's something that just strangely developed in East Kilbride.
We kind of got the 1 minute warning there, guys. John, I want to geek out and fanboy out a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm a huge fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the TV shows and the movies. You're part of that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Holden Rathbone, I believe.
Holden Radcliffe.
Radcliffe, damn it, close. What are your memories of working on that and being part of that huge cinematic universe?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty phenomenal. I remember I had my transhuman eye put in right at the very beginning, which was really crazy stuff to get done. And stupidly, I've only got one good eye. I was born with a bad eye. Lazy eye, as they used to call it. Can't really see out of that eye. And stupidly, I had the eye put in on my good eye. So I then spent, I then spent time like not really being able to see anywhere or breaking for lunch, and somebody had to take me by the hand and take me out. But it was phenomenally inclusive. The guys were great. The team, the writing team, of course, were the team behind Spartacus as well. So that was really nice to reconnect with them and do something else with Jed and yeah.
Speaking of Spartacus, I'll bleep this out, but the line readings of Jupiter's Gawk, ingrained in mine and my friend's brain. There was a time when that show was on, in the group chat, every third line, Jupiter's Gawk this, Jupiter's Got that.
They were pretty creative.
It was delicious.
It was good.
Guys, thanks very much for your time. Congratulations on the movie. I hope everything goes well at the screening tonight and at the 4DX screening, which I'm half looking forward to, but half fearful for, because that'll be crazy. Gents, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Who are you working for? Tell me!
Who the fuck is Carl Davis?